We've got some really interesting topics that we're going to chat about this morning. But, you know, how's Tilly been this week, Julia, to start with?
Good morning, everyone. Sorry, on my screen, everyone froze for that moment. Tilly's been great this week, and she has come of age. She actually came on heat on Friday, which was, we were discussing it last week, and lo and behold, it's happened.
Brilliant. So have you had to do anything different with her over the weekend when you were taking her out or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, I mean, it's at the beginning, but I still realise that she could be very exciting to meet, for other dogs to meet her. So I had to be up extra early over the weekend, and I know of a place we're very lucky, we do have somewhere locally that I have to drive to that I know is really quiet, and it's lovely woodland, and she loves it, but she had to stay on the lead, obviously. But we did go there just to give her a different exposure. But of course, we're going to be looking at some games and things for occupation, but I can't walk her from here. It's just unfair. So I've got a few weeks of being quite imaginative or having.
Oh, brilliant. So you've got a game there, haven't you, with the girls?
I will go and get it and place it down. So they could be playing while we're having a look at Marge.
Fantastic.
One moment.
So we're just going to get there's a brilliant game that Julia's going to show. Look, Tilly's there already. She can barely contain her excitement. So this is a brilliant game.
It gets a bit loud. So
simple. It's a bottle on a piece of doweling, and they have to roll it to knock out some treats. And you can see how dexterous they are just doing this, but it keeps them so occupied. But it's so lovely there. We've got Tilly and Maggie who are quite happily sharing the game, sharing the treats. It's so lovely to see. So we're going to let the girls just get on with that while we chat to Lucy and just a little bit about what you've been up with Marge.
Yes, well, Marge has been out and about to lots of different places where she's naturally quite reserved and a little bit unsure of things that she doesn't know. So I've just been really trying to take some time out, not to throw everything at her all at once. So I've noticed that she's been picking up the train noises near me and being not terrified, but slightly unsure. So I've kind of backtracked. And instead of walking her that way, we've been out in the car with the windows down. And it's all local to me. It's part of our walk, but we go out in the car with the windows down. And I've done that a few times. So we've probably done it 4 or 5 times. And then actually today we walked that route and I couldn't notice her even reacting at all to the train. So we've done that. We've also been to a very small local park where there's lots of children on those quite noisy scooters and bikes, because again, she seemed unsure of those. So we just stood well back. She was in her safe place and she just watched. Brilliant. And you can see her taking it all in, but she feels safe.
Yeah, it's really interesting because something I was going to ask you was, obviously with having Tilly, she's such a small breed puppy and you live in such a busy area. Everything must be so overwhelming for her. But something you said there was really interesting. You said about the train noises, and that's so good. I mean, you know, posh words, really, you're desensitizing her to it and then counter conditioning, you know, her to learn that it's actually not a scary noise, it's a nice noise. But what was really interesting was you said you did it 3 or 4 times, which is just perfect. Because so many times with socialization, people go, well, I've done that, I'll tick that off the list. And it's not just that once, is it?
No, it's not at all. It's all those environmental sounds. And it's also getting her used to, again, putting a term to it, I suppose, would be handling, getting her used to me touching her and doing different things with her. I do have, because I've got a lovely friend who gave it to me, I do have a list of all the things I should be getting her used to. But you're right, it's not a tick box. It needs to be do it once, do it again, and then see how she is.
Yeah, definitely. That's brilliant. And that is the same with the scooters, isn't it? It's that gradual. And what was really interesting when you said that as well, is that you started at a distance away. So you
Yes,
let her absorb all of that sight and the sound without going into the middle of it, going, there we go, cope with that.
absolutely. And I think it's, you will always have things with a puppy, with the best will in the world, that surprise you. You will always come round a corner and there will be something she's not experienced, and you then have to track back. But where I can prepare her, then that's what I'm trying to do.
I think that's a whole key of socialization. It's just this whole, it's just habituating them to the environment that they live in, so that if something major is there, they start to generalize it rather than thinking, oh, there's that and there's that, and I can't cope with that either. But doing them, layer on layer, like the train noise, the scooter noise, the noisy children in the park, and laying all of those things up, they just peel them back and go, I can cope with that. I can cope with that. Never seen that before, but okay. It's just building that whole understanding.
Absolutely, because I think on a walk around here, you can have the trains, the scooters, the bikes, the pushchairs, all on one walk, which we actually had today. We dealt with all of those, but we had one surprise. Was I hadn't noticed it. We were walking down a road, and a house had some tarpaulin over it. They're having work done, and it wasn't really windy, but it was breezy, and I just hadn't clocked it. And just as we walked past, it did a big old, flap. And actually, she dealt with that better than I thought she would. I mean, she stopped, she looked up, but actually, because she was out with one of my others, she looked straight at her, and Maisie, to be honest, totally didn't even notice it, and took her lead.
Brilliant. What about dogs in the park? Have you had any incidences with any big dogs? Because she's so tiny.
She is tiny, and she's very used to her little group of, her making it 4, and she's great with them. But I think, and I'm certainly talking to friends, everyone's finding this, the parks are so much busier at the moment. So when you want to get her used to things gradually, that's really hard to do, because pick the wrong time and you're suddenly inundated with lots of different dogs. She is currently still on lead, albeit sometimes a long line as well, because we don't have recall yet. And if she's got a terrier brain like my others, we might be on a long line for a while. But I want her to find her own little way in the world and deal with things if she can. And I'm mindful of how busy it is. So we tend to go cross country, because I also quite like the idea that she's not walking in straight lines along paths. So we do tend to go cross country, but we have had a couple of incidents where, big and small to be fair, dogs come bouncing over, and it's really interesting. She stops and she gives them a little bark. If they then back off, that's absolutely fine. But we've had a couple of times when those dogs have kept coming and haven't been called back by their owners. And I can see her getting quite scared. If the other dogs are with her, they kind of look after her. But there was one incident where there's a very large dog bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. She was terrified. It probably, in hindsight, got a step too far. She ended up growling at that dog, just a little growl. But I actually, which I don't know whether it was the right or wrong thing to do, because sadly the owner didn't call the dog back, I did end up having to scoop her up, because I do feel that it is my job to keep her safe.
Absolutely.
And it looks at me to keep her safe. And in that situation, there was nothing else I could do.
Yeah, I agree. In that situation, it's if you've got a larger dog, I would probably bend down, I would shield them, and I would still be pushing off the other dog. But if you did get the opportunity, then you've got to. Otherwise, that kind of incident she will then generalize that to other dogs coming over. And then she'll learn to start to do the growl beforehand. So I think in that incident, it's just to remove her from that situation and go, do you know what? It's all right. Well, the next one we'll deal with. And it's getting enough positive experiences into the bank. And that's what I always think about it. It's getting enough into the bank so that if you have a negative experience, it's only a small cash withdrawal. But we've got enough. We're not going to go into the red because we're okay. We're in the black. We've got enough here. And it's all of those tiny positives that we can just keep adding in.
Yeah, and I think in this time of, obviously all of us are in this lockdown, and we're not having puppy socialization. We're not going to puppy classes. I'm trying to meet up with the one person you're allowed to outdoors who maybe has a dog I know, so I know is reliable, and we will try and do some socialization like that to try and bank, like you say, the positive experiences. But I think really for me the message is, you know, if you see puppies or dogs on leads, give them a bit of space. And I do tend to go quite early. Like Julia says, people don't come out as early as I tend to go out. And I want her to meet dogs, but I don't want her to be bombarded by dogs.
Yeah. So a really good way of, you know, as you said about the train noises and the scooter noises and things like that, you know, to actually give them that counter conditioning, if you like, is actually to use food rewards as well, which is Julia's wearing 2 Labradors for this season's accessory.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a really good way of actually, you know, counter conditioning so that that scary train noises now brings a tasty tidbit. But I know it's something, Julia, we was going to chat about as well, was because we do talk a lot about doing the treat searches. The girls have just been playing with the treats in the bottle. And a lot of that is food, food, food. And Julia, you were just going to mention quickly about dogs and treats and weight. Oh, I think Julia's on, she might be on mute still. Oh, Julia, you're on mute.
Probably as well that I'm on mute, but I think if people want to hear what I say, I'm off mute. I'm off mute now. Yeah. Let me just check. Yes, I'm off mute. Yeah, about treats. We were talking about treats. I have noticed in the last few weeks that Tilly may have just put on a little bit of weight. And that, yes, Tilly, I'm talking about you. And I thought, wow, having had this little tiny puppy and growing puppy that she's been keeping the same weight, suddenly we reached this sort of period in her life and she started to just put on a bit of weight. So we are always talking about using treats and things, which of course are useful for treat searches and enriched environments and everything, but we've got to remember to take them out of our daily ration or their daily ration, because the last thing we want is to have a puppy that is putting on weight, because that weight will be with them forever. It's such a big subject, and one that actually there is this fantastic, we'll put a link for this, a fantastic CAM YouTube that was done by Hannah Capon and Professor Alexander German from the University of Liverpool, about investigating fat and looking at fat in puppies and adult dogs, and what the negativity that it has on them physically, not just the loading, but so many different things. It's well worth a listen.
We will I'll pop a link up to that onto our Facebook page so you can have a listen. I know it is quite lengthy, but it's very worthwhile listening to. It is one of those things, as you know, fat puppies make fat dogs, and it's really important you keep an eye, and especially as they go through all these levels of development through adolescence and everything, that, you know, the puppies, absolutely, you know, we can get away with so much more because they're busy all the time, but as soon as those hormones start to change, then those body shapes start to change. So it's something really important, and it can pile on, as Julia says. You know, you can just literally glance at the one day and think they're fine, and it's almost overnight. You look at them and go, "Oh, actually."
Yeah.
So that is something we'll pop on as well.
Exactly, absolutely, and he makes, I mean, he makes a couple of things, very good points of. He said there's no such, you know, puppy fat is not puppy fat is forever fat, sort of thing. So we always say, oh, it's puppy fat. It really shouldn't be. We should not have puppy fat. And the other thing he just says is just keep weighing your dogs, which is a really good and fairly simple way to manage that sort of potential issue. But really, it's such There is nothing good about having a dog that is overweight for their health. It really, really is. There is nothing positive about it, is there?
There is, we always call it, it's like the golden bullet, isn't it? It's, you know, we can do so much, but, you know, with the extra weight that's there, you know,
Yeah.
it just affects all of them. So
Yeah.
fantastic. Well, I will pop the link up to that. It is quite a lengthy
It
webinar, but honestly, put your feet
Yeah.
up, get a drink, and listen in, because there's
Yeah.
so much fabulous information in there. Fantastic. Guys, we have somehow run out of time again. It's been fascinating.
It just flies by.
I know, but it's been
Lucy, can we see her? I haven't seen
Hang
before
on.
we go. We're talking about her, but we haven't actually seen her.
There she is.
she has grown so much.
Yes, you're a big girl.
She almost fitted into the palm of your hands.
She did. Well, like I said, when she was tiny, she was the length of a remote control. She's now 2 remote controls.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
I'd rather die.
Red.
Oh, thank
look
you
at her. She
so
is
much,
horrible.
Lucy.
And what? Very.
Not for long.
Oh.
But thank you, Lucy, for sharing all of your experiences of having such a small puppy in such a big, busy, you know, place that you live in, and sharing your experience of the smaller breed, which is just fantastic. So hopefully we will be catching up with Marge again very soon.
Absolutely.
But thank you, everybody. Any
Lovely.
questions, everybody, please come on our Facebook page. She's now doing a parrot impersonation. Any questions, come and log on to our Facebook page and leave us some questions, and we will get round to answering those for you as well. And then we shall see you all. We're back next week. So we'll see you all again next week. Same time,
Yeah.
same place.
Lovely.
Bye, everyone.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Lovely to see you both. Bye-bye. Bye.